Hey there, welcome back to the beginning of our Pomodoro timer extension. Now, to begin coding the extension, the first thing we probably want to do is start with adding in the functionality for the pop-up. We probably won't worry about styling too much because it's generally easier to build functionality and then style after, just in case, you style as you go and you end up changing functionality anyways. So that's going to be our approach. Whenever you begin developing a Chrome extension, the first thing we do is create a manifest file. So let's do that. And we'll add in our JSON object here. We'll begin by defining our manifest version. That's 3. Name, call it Pomodoro timer. Version, let's just say 1.0. And the description, maybe something along the lines of helps you focus and get things done. And also while we're at it, we also have our icon here. And you can see it's a tomato with a clock inside of it, kind of like a Pomodoro. Not super pretty, but I think it represents what we're building here. So we'll also go ahead and add that in now. So icons, we have 16 by 16, PNG, and then just copy this over 2 more times. So we have our 16 by 16, we will add in our 48 by 48, and then our 128 by 128. And now that the manifest file is ready, let's start by testing it out just to make sure things are working. On my desktop, you see we have a folder with the manifest file in it. So we'll just select that entire folder. See that it loads in properly and that the little icon shows up, even though it's not interactive just yet. So let's start adding in that interactive element with the pop-up by adding in our action field. We'll pass in the object with our default icon. Pass in our icon.png. Give it a title. Call it Pomodoro timer. And we'll also give it a default pop-up, which is the actual HTML file. But this time, to keep our code a little cleaner, we're going to put it into a folder called Popup. So we'll do popup/popup.html. We're going to want to create that new folder called Popup and that new file. Perfect. And we'll type exclamation mark to get our default HTML styling. Even though this stuff, again, doesn't really matter for the pop-up, we'll fill it in anyways, just to be a little consistent. Pomodoro timer. And I'll add an H1 here, just to say Pomodoro timer again, so we know that this is loading in properly. I'll refresh this since we updated the manifest. And we can see that this is now red and our title shows up. So while we're at it, let's also set up our style sheet. Call it popup.css. And we'll add in our script tag, since we're probably going to need JavaScript later on. Popup.js. Create these files. We probably want to start envisioning what this Pomodoro timer is going to look like. This pop-up could probably be a little bigger. We probably want some kind of title element or header element at the top just to make things look kind of nice, followed up by probably the actual time of the timer and in a nice big font so that the user can open up the pop-up and quickly see how much time is left on their timer. We probably want some buttons for like starting timer and like adding a task. And we probably also want underneath that the actual task list where users can enter in tasks in order to keep track of the progress as they run these Pomodoro timers. In order to do that, I'll just add in a bunch of placeholder elements. To begin, maybe we'll do a simple icon at the top. And the icon will be our usual Pomodoro timer icon. So we'll go to the parent directory to reference that icon.png. And we'll just put that into a div to keep it separate. And I think we should add in 2 buttons here. Or for our 2 buttons, we should actually add in a placeholder for our time. So we'll just have the minutes followed by the seconds for our timer to keep it simple. We'll add in our button, start timer, and we'll add in another button called add task. And after that, we'll have a div, and inside this div will contain all of our task rows. And what I imagine is a simple input field for adding in text, and followed up by another input field that we can treat as a button actually. And I'm going to give it the value of x. So for each row or each task row, it'll have a text field and a button to delete that field once they're done with the task. So I'll save this and we can see what this looks like. Okay, so we have this giant icon followed by the time and our two interactive buttons for starting the timer, adding a task, and with this input field and its associated delete button. So just to clean up the styling a little bit, we'll add a class to this, call it header, and we'll do it just a tiny bit of styling so things look a little better. We'll add a height of 400 pixels, say a width of maybe let's do 300 pixels, and the header, what we're going to do is, so in this header div inside we have this image. So by setting our display to flex, we can do justify content center so that all of the elements inside of the div are centered. And then we'll also set the height just so that this icon doesn't take up so much space. We'll just say something like 40 pixels. And when we open this, things do look a little better.